I'm going to be making June from the video game 999. And for the pattern for her dress, I'm using McCall's M6741. I'm using view A, and because I'm already short to begin with, and these patterns tend to be a bit long on me, I'm just completely omitting the blue portion, and I'm just using the green portion of the dress, and I'll be adding sleeves to it. The neckline really doesn't matter for whichever pattern you choose to use for June's dress, because it's going to be covered by the scarf anyways. So I started by cutting my pieces out. I'm using a lavender kind of sateen fabric. It has a little bit of a stretch to it, which is fun. So I cut out the front pattern piece and then the two front side pieces, and I'm just going to zigzag everything together, or zigzag everything around the edges, and then I'm going to sew them together along the sides there. So that piece to that piece, and I'm deviating a little bit from the instructions in the pattern. I am not going to be adding the front pockets, and I'm not going to be putting a lining in this dress because the fabric I chose already has a pretty good weight to it. Now it's time to add the pockets. I used the pocket pattern that was included with the rest of the dress pattern, and instead chose to put it on the side seams instead of in the front. So I marked 5 inches from the bottom of the dress, and that was where I chose to put my new pocket pieces. So after zigzagging around the pocket, I sewed it to the base of the dress, and that is for the front, and then did the same thing on the piece for the side back. Now you're going to press the pocket open. Next, you're going to sew the two side pieces together along the side, down around the pocket, up, and up to the top. Then you're going to make a little slit here and a little slit here, making sure not to actually cut where you sewed, and that will allow you to be able to press your seams open. Next, we zigzag around the center back piece and then sew it on to the main part of the dress that we've already sewn, and we're going to sew it together, right sides together, along the top and along the sides. I'm going to sew them together. Now that we have the base body of the dress assembled, we're going to encase the bottom edge of the dress in bias tape. So I have a purple bias tape. You can just buy it pre-packaged, already made for you. And if you notice that it's folded in half, and one side is slightly smaller than the other, or slightly shorter than the other. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your bias tape and unfold it so that the shorter side is at the bottom, and you're going to put it onto your dress, pin it down all along the bottom, and then you're going to sew it right at where this bottom fold is. Okay, now that the bias tape has been sewn on, what we're going to do is fold it over, and then with the top of the garment facing up, we're going to sew right along the edge of the dark purple bias tape, and because the back side is slightly longer, it'll catch the edge of it and sew it down, but it'll leave a nice clean finish in the front. Next, use the same technique to add the purple bias tape to the neckline of the dress. Now we're going to add the design to the bottom of June's dress. I started by making some little templates out of an index card, and then I just traced around them using a pencil onto the fabric to serve as a marker, and then I painted them on using a combination of fabric paint mixed with acrylic paint mixed with textile medium, and just hand painted them on there. And when you're painting your fabric, be sure to put something, either like I had a plastic little card or some cardboard, something underneath your fabric so the paint doesn't bleed through and get on the floor underneath. Fold the dress so that the right sides are together, and then pin the two back pieces together and sew them together. After you've sewn the back two pieces together, iron the seam open. While you're at it, iron along the bottom of the dress with the iron on top and the fabric paint facing downward. This will heat set the paint, but just be careful not to run over the paint with the iron, because sometimes that can make the paint smear onto the iron. After you've pressed your seam open, pin down your zipper into the middle of the seam. What you're going to do next is to sew all along the zipper down and then back up to attach it to the dress. After your zipper has been sewn down, turn the dress right side out, and then you're going to seam rip along this seam right here, down the length of the zipper, to open it up and to open up the zipper. For the sleeve portions, you're going to do pretty much the same as you did for the base of the dress. After cutting out the sleeve, zigzag along the edges to keep it from fraying. Apply the purple bias tape the same way we did for the bottom of the dress and for the neckline of the dress, and then paint on the flower designs just like you did for the bottom of the dress. Next, you're going to fold your sleeve so that the right sides are together, and then sew along the edge. Attach the sleeve to the rest of the dress. For June's armbands, start by taking stretch knit fabric in blue, purple, yellow, and black, and cut rectangles the shape and length that you need. For reference, the rectangle on the bottom is going to be folded in half. This is so you don't have to worry about hemming the bottom of the sleeve. Next, you're going to sew all of your rectangles together to create her stripes for the arm warmers. Then, you're going to cut a rectangle of black stretch knit, the length and width that you want, and this is going to connect to the blue top stripe, and it's also going to be sewn onto the sleeve of the dress. After attaching the thick black strip to the top, you're going to take your armband and fold it in half, and then you're going to sew along the side to turn it into a sleeve. Hand sew the armband tube to the bottom of the sleeve, and with that, the dress is done.